All right. Hello, everyone. We're just going to go over a very quick tutorial today using Django again. But today, the objective will be to collect user input, store it in our database, and be able to pull that for future use. So we're going to be learning about things like Django data models and how how that goes in with the database. So we're just going to jump right in. It's actually going to be a little bit of a long tutorial. I'm actually going to move very quick in the first part because we're going to go over the same things as the last one. We're going to actually start the project from scratch, and then we'll once we get to the models, that's when we're going to slow it down. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So you want to go ahead and create a folder. I just called it root frame, just something to be able to work out of. Type command in at the top. And we're going to go ahead and start typing in our commands to get our virtual environment installed, Django installed, and everything up and running. So we're going to do pip install -- user virtual env. That's to make sure that we have our virtual environment installed so we can go ahead and use it. So we're going to call python -m venv for virtual environment and the name of our virtual environment that we're going to create. Just going to go ahead and call that server env for server environment. Okay, and that was created for us. So we need to go ahead and activate that virtual environment. So we're going to go call server env. So we're just giving it the path to our the activate script to activate the virtual environment, which is at the environment name /script/activate on Windows. And on Mac, that would be that'd be source bin activate. Okay, so we see we have our virtual environment active. So we're now going to install Django. Pip install Django. Okay, and I already have it installed, but not on this virtual environment. So it's actually getting installed again into this virtual environment because it's never been in this virtual environment. So now that it's installed, let's go ahead and start creating the project directory and create some apps within it. So to create the project, we're going to do Django admin start project, and we're going to do we're going to call this event central. Okay. So what this okay, I'm actually going to delete that very quick. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to put a period there so that we don't have to do the thing with the outer folders like we did last time to copy and move it up. So now everything's going to be created in this directory. You see the difference from what it was about 10 seconds ago? Okay. So what this is so this little web app that is going to be built today is it's just going to be displaying some events that are in the area near you. Like if you know like bands in town or like things like that, or like meetup or whatever, or it just shows, oh, this is happening in areas near you. So it's just going to be something so people can say, hey, I'm in this area code. Here's an event that I know is going on. And other people can go and see what events are going on. And at the end, I'll tell you guys how you could try to expand it if you want to work on this on your own. Okay. So we have Event Central created. So we're going to now create an app within this project. So we're going to do Python manage.py start app and the name of the app that we're going to have within it. And I'm just going to call this event search. Okay. And we see our app event search has been created. So now we've created our entire directory structure. I'm going to go ahead and exit this out. Or I'm going to at least minimize it. And I had this folder open inside of root frame, and all of these things just got created inside of it. So Event Central is for the entire project. And just like last time, we need to modify a couple things in here in order to be able to work with the app. So what we need to do is we need to let it know we just created an app. So an installed app that we have is called Event Search. Okay, so we have event search. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Exit. That's all we need to modify for a settings file for the entire project. Okay, Now URLs, we need to include the URLs for our app. So we're going to let the app deal with the routing. So we're going to tell it to import the include commands from Django.urls, and then we're going to give a path, a separate path, which is going to be the empty string. Okay. And what is it? Okay. So we have to include the URLs that are inside of event search dot URLs. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and save that. I'm gonna put a comma there. I keep getting errors forgetting to add commas. So that's all we need to do for the entire project directory. Let me see if I can switch it. So let's actually do everything from here on within the app directory. I think I just opened it up. Did that open it up? No, it did not. Okay. So we only need to work within event search. Okay. Oh, it added it. Okay. I don't want to do that. I'm gonna remove that. Okay. So this is what we had a second ago. So we're gonna go to our app, which is event search. Now, like last time, we're missing a few files and folders inside of this app that's going to allow us to do everything that we want. So we're going to add a few files and we'll go over what they are. Beginning, let's start by adding them. So we're going to need something to hold our templates, and we need a folder for that. That's going to be called templates. And because of the namespacing convention that we went over last time, inside of our templates folder, we're going to need to create a new app with the same name as the app itself. So the folder is going to be event search. Okay. And this is where we're going to keep all of our templates and HTML files. So let's even inside of here, let's just create a file just to get it started. We're going to call this index.html. You can call this home.html, okay, or whatever you please. This is just going to be here, and let's just go ahead and give it some HTML very quick. Very, very quick. Means everything's working. Okay. Gonna save that. All right. So we have some files that we still need to create. So we're gonna need a URLs file because we told the project that we have our URLs file, but we don't have it yet. And we need a forms file as well. And that might be everything that we need. As far as actual files, I think it is. Okay, so we need a new file called urls.py. Okay, and we need one more file called forms.py. New file, forms.py. Okay, and I believe that is everything. Okay. So now we need to go ahead and, so anyways, like I said, we're going to be collecting, information from the user saying, oh, here's the location, and then we're going to later display that to other users or to the same user if for whatever. So we need to define like the information we're going to collect, and when we collect that information, all that information needs to be stored inside of a database. And the way Django works is it just uses data models, which is just a class inside of Python, and it uses that to represent it. So the abstract class, when it's defined, that will define a table, and each instance of a class will define a row in that table, and within we're going to do that inside of our models .py file, and each field inside of each model is going to determine a column for that table. Okay, it will make a little bit more sense in just a minute when we go over it. So let's go ahead and create two data models. Okay, so what the data models for this project are going to be are location and event. So we're going to have a location that an event is going to be held at, and we're going to actually have some information about the event, but these are going to be two different data models. And the reason that we do that is because a location is actually specifying an area code. So there can be many, many different events within a single area code. So different events are going to refer to the same area code. Like when you're searching, you might search by your area code, and you're hoping that like there's multiple events there. So that's why we're not just putting the location directly inside of the event itself. We're letting the event refer to the location, even though it's an area code. Okay, so let's go ahead and define our two data models. So this is just a class that inherits from models.model. Okay, so a class called location. So this is going to be a table, and the only field that it has is area code, and so for each column obviously is going to have like a specific type or whatever, and Django needs to know what type that is. So the way we tell it is we called like each type is a specific field, whether it's like an integer or a date or a string or etc., or a file itself or the path to a file. So it needs to know what that information is going to look like. So when it's creating the database table, it's allotting the correct amount of space. And for things like validation and things like that, it already knows, oh, if I get a string for an integer, there's something wrong. So we're going to say the area code is just going to be an integer field. We're going to say unique is equal to true. So each instance of a location, which is actually just an area code, is going to be unique. Okay. So now we're going to have events, and so the location, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create all the locations. So I'm going to show you guys how to add information to the database yourself and to create all the area codes in the United States, for example, or at least, all 3-digit area codes. And then when someone adds an event, they can select what area code they want it to like refer to. Okay. Or actually that will already be decided based on the way that we have it set up. And you guys will see that in just a few minutes. So a user is going to come in, and if they're searching for events, maybe they can do that. But maybe they say, hey, I know that my band is playing at this place downtown, and I want to add an event to let some people know about this. So they're going to go ahead and add an event. And the only thing that we needed to know is what area code. So for the people that are searching for this, okay, and a summary of the event, like, oh, my band will be playing downtown. And there's a lot of information that we're not including because this is just a simple example. So we have a location that this event is going to happen at. Okay, we have a location that this is going to happen at, and that's going to refer to whatever, like, for all the locations we have, it has to refer to a specific area code. So each event is going to refer to a specific location. So the type of field that this takes is a foreign key, which means that anytime we're referring to a location, we're really referring to part of the location class or a field in a row in the location table. Okay. So the way we define this field is models.foreign key. Okay. And we're going to say we're going to refer to the location class, so we need to call the class by name. And we need to say what happens if this location class gets deleted. So this is referring to this class. So if this class gets deleted, there's no more events that can happen within that location. So we're going to tell it to what happens on delete. So if we delete the location class, what are we going to do? And we're just going to click models, type models.cascade. So that just means when the location gets deleted, all the events for that location get deleted. Okay. And we're just going to also define a summary for the event, like, oh, yeah, I'm hosting a pottery class or something. Okay. So it's going to be text or a string or something of that nature. So we're going to define models.text field. Okay. Models.text field. Okay. And that is how we define our data models. It's extremely simple. Okay. So this is what our data is going to look like. We're going to have specific locations, and we're going to have specific events at those locations and information about those events. Okay, that's it. So now that we have that, we need to get ready to collect the information from our user. So Django comes with like helper functions, which are forms. So since we've already defined what the data model is going to look like, if we want to create an instance of the event model, it can do that for us using forms. So we don't have to write out a form in plain HTML and all the specific fields and make sure that all the fields are of the same type or whatever. So what it can do is it can just say, hey, I already know what all the data types are. I know what fields to put out. Like even for like a date time field, it can put out a date time selector for you, which is great. So you don't have to like do too much or whatever. Like if you're going to collect a file, like an image from someone's computer, it has a field that it knows, collect a file and validate that that type of file is an image file. Okay, so that's great. So we're going to go ahead and go into forms, which is a file we just created. So we can import some information and create the forms given the specific models that we already have. Okay. Okay, so from Django.urls import path. That's for the wrong file. Sorry, I'm transcribing from some stuff I wrote earlier. So from .forms. Sorry, that's also incorrect. You're gonna have to give me just one moment. Okay, from Django import forms. Okay, and we're gonna say from models, which we just defined our models, from .models import event. So we want to create a form that our user can input information into. Okay, and now we need to define the actual form. So we have event, we have the actual form. So now we need to define the form for that specific event model class. Okay, so we're gonna say class event form. Okay. It inherits from forms.model form. Okay. Forms.model form. And inside of this class, we're going to define a second class called meta. And it takes a couple fields. So the first field is the model that it's going to actually represent, which is event, which we just imported. Okay. And the second, well, it takes several, but you can get away with just these two arguments, which is the fields. And this is going to take a list of all the fields inside of models that we want to collect from the user. Okay, so we're going to assume that let's say your area code is 323. So you're going to be looking at all of the events in 323, and once you're within that page, you can select to add an event for the 323 region. So we're already going to have that information, so we don't need to actually have the user input the specific area code that the event is being created for. All we need them to do is give a summary of the event, like maybe this time, this price, this activity, something like that. So that's all just going to be held within our summary. So all we actually need to collect is summary. So this event form, when it gets displayed, when it gets rendered, it's just going to be a normal form, and they're just going to have to input summary, hit submit, things like that. Okay. Sorry. Just trying to get things under control. Make sure everything is fine, and then we can go ahead and continue. I do apologize if things are not up to your standards. I'm doing my best, and I'm trying to get this done in one shot. So import path. Did we already do URLs? We did not do URLs. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and now define some URLs so we can actually start routing things and clicking around and actually getting to the meat of it, so we can define our views to handle the URLs, return pages, etc. Okay. So we need our import. So from Django dot URLs import path from dot import views, and our app name is equal to the app name, which is event search. Okay. And we need to define our actual URL patterns as a list. Okay, so we're going to define path, and first one is going to be for the empty string. This is going to take us to the home, and this will display all the area codes that we can then search through. Okay, so path, and we're going to say views dot all zones or all regions or whatever you'd like to call it. This is just going to give you a list of all the area codes that you can search through. Okay, and we're going to call it name is equal to all zones. Okay. So this is just the basic path for the landing page because it's an empty string, or for the root page. Okay. So let's go to our views, and we called it all zones. So let's go ahead and define our view for all zones. So we're going to define all zones, which is our view is going to take a request, and we're going to return render this page we have over here. Okay, where is it? This means everything is working out. Okay, so we're going to return render it takes a request, and it takes the path for the template, which is going to be inside of event search. Event search slash what is it, index dot HTML. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Now let's go ahead and run our server and just make sure everything is working out. Okay, so we're going to do python inch.py run server, and I mistyped that field. So integer field, yes, that's what I meant with a capital I. And yes, I also mistyped text field. Okay, perfect. So let's go here. This means everything's working. Perfect. Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about how to work with our actual data models and make use of those data models. So on this page, what this page is going to be right here is this is just going to display a list of all the area codes, and then you can click on an area code, and then within that page that you get taken to after you click on an area code, there will be a couple options. The first one will be to add an event for that specific area code that you're in for that page, or you can just go ahead and browse all of the events for that are in that area code. You know, just as a disclaimer, like, duh, obviously this is like so like silly and simple. They're like, if you'd like to make this more advanced, you can add a date time field, and you can like filter by date, like only things that are current to the future or whatever, because the way that things are right now, like, things will stay there forever. But that's something you can go ahead and do on your own. So let's go ahead and use the Django shell, which will give us access directly to the database. So we can go ahead and create all of the area codes, so all of the locations, and then we're going to go ahead and display all the locations to this page so we can then go and navigate. Okay, so let's go ahead now, and we're going to hit Control-C to like break the server in the server, whatever you'd like to say. whenever we're like dealing with the database, whenever we change some data models or update some data models, we need to make migrations, which is saying, hey, we need to specify how we're about to change the database. And then when we say migrate, that's actually changing the database. So we've now created 2 data models, location and events. And we need to go ahead and let the database know, create those tables for us. Okay. So we need to call Python manage.py make migrations. Okay. And look, it just told us we've created the model for location and for event. Okay. Which is great. Now we need to tell it to go ahead and make those migrations. So apply those changes to the actual database. So Python manage.py migrate. Okay, so now those changes have taken effect. So now we have an empty database. So let's go ahead and connect to our database from within the Django shell. And the way that we go ahead and do that is we type Python manage.py, and you see manage.py is coming in very handy as a utility. We're going to type in shell. So this is going to give us access to our database. Okay, so you see that right there. That means we're connected to our database. Now that we've been connected to our database, we need to go and we need to import the models from our models file. Okay, and then we can go ahead and manipulate some information from there. So remember, manage.py is up here, like project level, and we defined our models inside of a lower directory, which is event search, which is an app directory. So we need to go ahead and import the models from that file, which is in a different directory. So what we need to do is we need to do from whatever the app name is, and this is event search dot models import location. Okay, so we're gonna find out what's going on with the location information. So there are different ways to let's see, Django. There's a lot of information on working with models. You can go here on making queries, query set methods. We already covered the first part. Well, part of the first part. We're going to talk about actually like doing queries right now. But always refer to the documentation at all times. Whenever you have some issues, refer to the documentation. That's the only way you can possibly get better. So let's look real quick to make some queries. All we have to do is call what is it? We have to call objects.get or objects.filter or objects.all. So name of the model, and then we call .objects and .all if we want all of them back, or we can call .filter, or we can call .get to get an individual instance or an individual row. Okay, so let's find out all of the locations we have inside of our database. So what is it doing? Okay, location dot objects dot all, and it should return an empty query set because we've added nothing yet to our database. Okay, so you see that, an empty query set, we have nothing back from our database. So now we want to go ahead and we want to create all of the area codes, so we can go ahead and display those on our home page. So this is just, I mean, you could write a utility for this, but we're just going to do it in a couple lines of code. So I'm going to say for I in range 100 to 1000, we're going to say our instance, I'm just going to call it instant. Okay. Instant is equal to our location. So we're just instantiating a version of that class, of the location class. And it takes area code as one of its arguments. And so area codes in the USA are 3 digits. So this for I in range 100 to 1000, this is just actually giving us I will be all of the 3-digit numbers. So we're creating all the 3-digit numbers, okay, for area codes, and that's going to represent all like the different regions or whatever, okay. So we're going to say our area code is equal to I, and just creating that doesn't really do anything. So we have to tell it to save that instance, okay. We have to call .save, which is a class method, okay. And once we do that, it's going to go through this loop and it's going to create rows in our table for our location table for every I from 100 to 999. Okay, it's going to go ahead and run that. So I'm going to just hitting the up arrow, as a shortcut for previous commands. I'm going to call location.objects.all. Okay. And it's now going to return a query set of all of the instances we have of all the locations, which are just our area codes, okay? And we see we have some huge query set, okay? And so this is going to be all of the objects we have inside of our database for location. So I'm going to hit Control-Z, Control-Z and Enter for Windows, and for Mac, I believe it's Control-D. To exit the shell. Okay, so now we've left contact with our database. We know we've created several different things inside of our database. So let's go ahead and deal with that so we can now display all of that information to our template. Okay, so what we have to do now is we have to go to our view, because we need to pull that information. And I'm actually going to hit exit on that. Hit exit on that event form. Got to remember the name. All right. So we need to go ahead and now we need to just give me one moment. One quick little moment. Okay. Trying to do this well, but I know I'm not great. Anyways. So we're going to import a few extra little things right now. So we need to import our models. So we're going to say from .models import our data model, which is all of our locations, because we want to render all of our locations. Location. And I'm also going to import event right now. We're not going to use event right now until a couple more pages. But you'll see it in just a moment. So we're going to say locations is equal to, and now we're going to query it just how we did in shell. We're going to say location dot objects dot all, and this is now all of locations. This is now all of our locations, and each specific location will have an area code, which you can use dot notation to access the area code for that location. Okay, so we're gonna say, and we need a context to pass this, so we can go ahead and display that inside of our web page. So we're gonna say context is equal to locations. Okay, now go ahead and we still need to pass context. So now we're going to use this context within this template. Okay, and we're going to use a for loop inside of a template tag, which we did not go over yesterday, but it's very similar to the for loop in Python, except it has to be included within these template tags, and we're not using a colon. So the way that you would use a for loop is you'd say for location in locations. So locations is given to us by context, okay? And this is going to be our for loop, and we have to do something inside of the template, which is called end for as well. So whatever happens inside of our for loop is within the scope of those two tags. So what we now must do is we have to print the location. So we're just going to go ahead and quickly print the location. So we're going to say location dot area code. Area code. Okay. And I'm going to put that actually inside of a paragraph tag. Okay. Just so each one will have its own line. Okay. I'm going to go ahead to save and refresh the web page, and let's see what we get. That's not good. Oh, I don't have server running. So let's go ahead and retry that one more time, and look at that. So we have all the area codes between, well, all 3-digit numbers, which are all the area codes for the USA. Okay. So we want to go ahead and look at the events for these, but these are not links or anything. So let's just go ahead and include that as a link. Okay. So let's go ahead and modify that. So instead of as a link, we're just gonna, as a paragraph, we're gonna just put that as a link. So the way we would do that is just the way we define a normal link inside Django. So hyperlink reference is equal to template tags for our URL, and we need to define the type of template tag it is, which is URL, and we're doing name spacing, so app name, which is event search. Okay, and then we have the name of the specific URL we're going to route to, which is going to be events. Okay, and then any other arguments that we might have, which is just going to be location dot area code. So we're now passing the area code as part of our URL string. And this is just going to be dot area code, and then just closing tag. Whoops. So we're about like 2/3 of the way done. Don't lose hope if you're getting bored. So we're gonna have some problems in like just 1 second. When we go ahead and do this, you're gonna see that there's links, but we haven't defined the URL or the view for the specific event page yet. So let's go ahead and hit refresh. Oh, and it's not even letting us look at it. So let's go ahead and define that URL. And alright, so we had a little issue, so I'm re-recording a bit. So the last thing we had done was we had just we had gone ahead and we had made the list view for the entire home page, and we needed to define the view and the URL for the page that we're linking to inside of our home page for each individual event page. Sorry, each individual location page or area code page. So we're getting linked to each one of those. Now we need to go ahead and create the page for each one of those. So we're going to go ahead and do that by defining a URL pattern path, and we're going to have this as events / and it gives us the area code as an argument. So we're going to define a variable as area code. Okay, so we can work with that later. We need to know the view that we're going to send that to, which is going to be views dot events, and we're going to have our name shortcut as events. Okay. So let's go ahead and now create the view and the HTML file for that. So just quick little HTML file, new file, and we're going to call that events.html. Okay. So we have our events URL. So now let's create our view. So we're going to define a view. It's called events. It's going to take 2 arguments, request, and the 1 argument that was passing our URL, which is area code. Okay. And we're going to go ahead now. So we have the area code, which is given to us like the location that we're going to look for the events for. So we need to search for all of the events within that specific location. And there's a couple ways you could do it. We're just going to go over one right now. So whenever we want to query some events, and each event is associated with a specific location. So if we want to query all the events, what we need to tell it is, hey, we need the events for this specific location. But right now the location is as an integer from our URL. So we can't actually tell it, hey, look at this integer value and go to that event. We have to say this integer value corresponds to a specific location. And once we have that instance of a location, we can tell our events, hey, look for all the events that have a relation to this specific instance of this location. So we're going to need to go ahead and query a specific location, which we're given an area code for a location. And once we have that location, we're going to pass that as to filter for our events. Okay. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to say our location is equal to location dot objects dot get, and the reason we use get, which is the issue that we had previously, or I had previously, is it was returning a list, and I only which when you use filter all you get a list, but when you use get it returns a single one. So that was the issue. So area code is equal to area code. So now we're going to get an instance of a location, and we're going to go ahead and pass that instance of location to get all of our events that correspond with that location. So we're going to say our event dot objects dot filter, and this is going to give us all of them, all of our events, where the location is equal to the instance, which is lock or location. Okay. So now we have our area code and we have all the events. Let's go ahead and put those in context so we can pass that to our template and render those. Okay, so we're going to say context is equal to events by name of events, and area code is equal to area code. Now let's go ahead and pass that to our events.html template. So the way we do that is return render request, and then the file path for that template, which is just going to be event search / events .html, and that template is going to want the context, so we have information to render. Okay, so we have events and we have area code. So inside of events, let's go ahead and pull that up. So let's just go ahead and print events to keep it simple. Okay, we're not going to use a for loop right now. We're just going to print out everything in events, and it should be printing out an empty query set for us. Okay, just so we know what we're getting, because we haven't created any events yet. Okay. Retrun. I don't want to run anything. I want to return. Okay. Let's go ahead and reload that. Okay, so let's go ahead now, go to a page, and it's returning an empty query set. Perfect. Okay, so we now know what area code this is for. This is for the 109 area code, RepInit 109. So we're going to want to be able to add new events to the 109 area code page. So what we need to do is we need to add a link to take us to a page to put that information in. We could actually add the form right here at the top, but I'm just going to have it as a separate page for right now. Just because of, you'll see how long the view is for this other page for handling a form. So it's just for us, for convenience, we're going to go ahead and do that. So first thing we're going to have to do is create the link to that other page. And what is it? Okay, so we just need to add an anchor tag. Hyperlink reference is equal to template tag for a URL with the namespace event search, add event, and then we have an area code. Area code. We're going to close that, and we're going to say add event. So there's going to be our link. Okay. Now let's go ahead and run that. We're probably going to get an error because we don't have the view set up yet. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that view. First, we need a URL for add event, and add event takes area code as a URL argument. So we're going to define path for add event. And it takes area code, which is area code. Views dot add event, and we're going to take name is going to be equal to, you guessed it, add event. Okay. Now we're all done. We can go ahead and close this out. Yeah, that's all we need it for. So, and that's, we don't need the index either. So let's go ahead and define the function for add events, and we will be done. Okay, so add events takes the same args as events. So we're going to define a function called add event, takes a request, some area code. Okay, and what we need to do is we need to handle, so we're going to go ahead, and in just a minute you'll understand this. So for example, if the user wants to add an event, they should receive an empty form for information about the event that they can fill out, and it can be added. However, if they're submitting an event, they have a form that they filled out and they're sending it, and they're both of those are going to go to add event, the add events view, add event singular, I believe. Add event singular. Yeah, so we're gonna split this view up into two parts. One part we're gonna say, hey, if it's if they're asking for the page and they haven't seen the form yet, they want to get the page, so we're gonna send them an empty form. However, if they filled out the form and they hit submit on the form, they're trying to send us that form, so that's a post. They're posting information to the server. So we're gonna check whether it's a post or a GET request, and we're going to handle those differently based on how we send the form over and what we do with the information once we've received the form. So let's go ahead and do that now. So first thing we have to do is we have to check what type of request it is. So if request.method is not equal to post, okay, so which means it's a GET request, or we're assuming it's a GET request because it's not post. We're going to say our form is equal to our event form, okay? And we imported our event form up here from .forms, import event form, and we also imported two other things from Django.http, import HTTP response redirect, and from Django.urls, import reverse. And you will see both of those in action. Just one moment. So now we know we're going to go ahead, and our form is an empty form if it's a GET request. But if it's a POST request, that means they're sending information over from their client side via a form to us that we want to handle, take that information, validate the information, add that to our database, and then send them to a different page. Because if they submit a form, you don't want to leave them on the same page. You want them to go back to the events page or to a separate page. Because they don't want to be looking at a form they just filled out. They want to look at all the events with their event that they just added on the events page. Okay. So let's go ahead and handle that right now. So we're gonna say else. So this, we're assuming that that this is now a post request because it's not a get request. So we're gonna say our form is gonna be equal to our event form, and the data to fill in this form, which is just the summary of the event, is gonna be equal to request.post. So the data for our form is held in there, and we're just going to extract that and put that in our form body. Okay. So we have to say if the form is valid. And this is why using the Django forms is great. Like we validate our information, our forms with is valid method. It's as easy as calling that. So we wanted to find an intermediary form, because we still need to say, hey, connect this event to a specific location. We still haven't connected this event to a specific location. And it doesn't collect that information inside of the form because we don't have that field inside of our form. So we need to go ahead and get that information. But we're given the area code, so we can do the same thing we did up here. Okay? So we're going to say form .save commit equals false. So this is just saying, hey, like we have the form half done, but don't save it yet. So we're saying save it, but commit equals false means like kind of save it in memory, but don't save it to the database. Like save it to like a local memory. Anyways, so we're gonna say so this is now an instance of the event form, and the event form still needs to know the location. So we need to hand specify the location. And we're going to do the same thing we did up here. You can just go ahead, copy, paste that. It's one line. Type it out. Look, so the location is equal to objects.get, so we get a single object. The object where the area code is equal to the area code that was passed in. Okay? So now both of our fields, we have the summary, which is from the form, and we have the location, which we just hand specified right now. We have all the information we need, so we're just going to say save. So we're going to save the form. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a response redirect, and we're going to use we're not going to return a rendered thing. We're going to reroute it the same way that we've been rerouting, like using our anchor tags. Essentially, it's not completely identical, but it's pretty much the same. So like when you click an anchor tag, you're saying redirect me to this other page. That's what we're doing right here. Instead of just saying render this other page, we just pass it a little information and we're good. Okay. So HTTP response redirect reverse, and these are the ones you saw we just imported a second ago. Reverse, and we specify this just the way we do our URLs inside of here, inside of our templates. But here we specify this, and then these are the arguments that get passed into our URLs. But it's not like we say here args is equal to area code. We don't do that. But since we're calling it in a function over here, we have to hand specify args. So first thing we do is we say event search, and we're gonna say take me back to the events page. Okay. But we also need some args because this also needs an area code. So we're gonna say, and it could take a list of arguments or whatever. So we have to pass args as a list, and we say it's take not a string, area code. So it's gonna take us to the area code for whatever this is. So it's gonna take us back to the same event page. Okay. And we need to, so that's if we submitted it and we're being redirected back to the events page. However, if it was a GET request and we had the empty form, we still haven't sent that to the user on the GET request. So if we're outside the scope of this else, we need to just pass it the blank form. So we say context is equal to form is equal to form, which is blank form, and area code is equal to area code. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and do what we've been doing the whole time. Return, render, request, event search, / add event .html. That gets passed as a string. And the context as well. Okay, so our form gets passed within context, like the area code. So now we need to go ahead and create our template for add event page, so we can now render it. So we need add event. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna very simply create this form. So that's the reason we're passing it as a form from Django, is because it has methods that will allow it to display the form very simply and make sure that you have the correct field types for data entry, and for the validation as well, as we just saw a minute ago. So it's literally 5 lines to specify it. So we're going to define a form and the action. Oh no. So I need to rename that. Whoops. Rename add event .html. Not comma HTML. Rename add event .html. There we go. So we need an action attribute, and this takes as a string, and within template tags, we're going to pass a URL of where to send this form to once we hit submit. So that's what we're typing in right now. And let's see. So we need event search, and that's going to take back to add event, and we need area code as an arg. Okay, and method is equal to post. We went over that just a moment ago. Okay, and we need a end form tag. Okay, and we need a submit button, which an input button, which are needed for all forms for sending information over. So type is equal to submit. Okay. So how do we specify the form? So we got the form through context. Okay. So just like anything we have from context, we have form, and like I said, it will like put all the appropriate fields, but there's a little shortcut that you could put as p, which stands for as paragraph. So form as p, and that will display your form like with new lines for each field. That's really all that's doing. So it's kind of just making your form look a little bit neater, but that's your entire form. You have to include a single template tag to protect your site from cross-site request forgery. So Csrf Token. So what this does, and I'm not a web security guy by any means or anything at all, literally. But this is supposed to prevent your site from accepting requests from different sites, which, cross-site request forgery. You don't want people to be accessing this URL, like just going into their own browser and typing it in, or writing some JavaScript code to hit this a million times or something like that. So my understanding is that this Csrf token is something that comes with Django. So it's like, oh no, we're validating that these requests are coming from our own form and our own page. Okay, so that's everything you need, I believe. Let's go ahead and check out the browser. Okay, that's not good. URLs. Every single time. Like literally, it doesn't miss. What is it this time? Okay. It's an easy one. Semicolon, colon. Context, passing that in. What is it now? Oh, it's about the indent. 1, 2, 3. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. There. Okay, now let's try it one last time. Okay. Add event is not a valid view function or pattern name. So let's go to our URLs. Add event. I really don't want to record this a third time. Oh, there we go. We have an extra space at the end. Oh man. Okay. So we're on 109. Let's try to see if we can add an event. Okay, that's fine. A lot of little typos really making this super tedious. Add event. So we're on 109. Let's just make a summary for something, alright? And we're full of errors today, and I do apologize. I really apologize. I'm really trying. Response, redirect, reverse. Okay. This will be the one. I feel it. Okay. So look, we now just added something to 109. Let's add another event. Okay. My band is so cool. Come check me out. Okay, submit. Look, so we have more. So let's go back home. And so let's look at like 557. So there's nothing. Now let's go ahead and just modify this events page. So we're just gonna say we're just gonna put some template tags in and use a for loop like we did on our main page. So for event in events event.summary. Okay, and you know, this is you know, like you could add like date time fields, you can add information, price, whatever, but this is just, you know, this is just for fun, just to show you guys anything like or whatever. So don't take it like too seriously. No, whoops, and this is a template tag, so we need the double percent signs. So it's just giving a summary like, come check out my event or whatever. Let's see. So there's nothing, and let's actually have that empty tag that I think we talked about earlier. I'm not sure if it's in the other recording that I did it. So you can use empty if there's nothing, like there's no events happening here. Okay, so if it's empty, it'll just go ahead and display that by default. But we're gonna add an event to 557 right now, and it's like, nah, my band is playing here. Okay. So look, oh, and we should put that through paragraph tags as well. So for each event, there we go. Each event is going to be on its own line at least. Okay. And no, there's gonna BMX down by the pike, let's say. All right. Look, there's lots of things to go. You can check out stuff, and you know, you could post information, and you can add information. And obviously, I could have put a link back to home on any of them, but this is the basics. This is I hope you were able to understand how to use information in the URL requests, like we went over previously, and how to, use namespacing. So, and mostly what I'd hope that you guys would learn is understanding the use of models, the creation of individual data models and how you connect them and refer to each other, how you can run queries for a specific instance, multiple instances, pass those instances to your context and render them in your template, and also how to, so once you have your models, how to create a form, how to send that form over to the user, and render that form, which is, you could do it in a single line. There's longer ways, but that's the easiest way. So create the model, make a form from that model, send that form over to the user. If it's a GET request, or if it's a POST request, if they've submitted that information to you, how to handle that information a little bit, add that to your database, and send them back to another place. So that's hopefully what you could have learned from it. I hope this was not too long, too tedious, anything like that. I hope I was able to provide some sort of value. You all have a good one. Take care. Like, comment, subscribe. You know how it is.